how to play the same groove at 3 different difficulty levels. It's this one. So first of all, why am I bothering to do 3 different difficulty levels in one video? It's because I'm trying to show you how you can develop your grooves. If you're already playing 8th note grooves, it can sometimes be tricky to know how to elevate that and make it more difficult. So let's take a back step and cover the basic groove. As I said, it's an 8th note groove, so hi-hat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 4 on the snare drum, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and bass drums are going to be on beat 1, the and of 2 and the and of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. What you want to make sure of is that you count out loud and sync everything up. Take it nice and slow. The main important thing here is that you don't have flamming between limbs. What is flamming between limbs? Is when you're supposed to be hitting things at the same time, but they just ain't. So it sounds a bit like this. Sounds a bit naff, doesn't it? We don't want that. So just make sure everything's coming down together. If you're finding that you can't control your bass drum very well, check out the video I've done talking about bass drum technique. Anyway, back to the good stuff. The next level of this groove is to add a bass drum on the of 4. Allow me to demonstrate. It can be tricky to add bass drums on what we call the offbeats, also known as the E's and U's. In 16th notes, as we know, goes 1 E and So, the good way to think about this is that the bass drums on offbeats are falling in between your hi-hats. A little exercise you can do to practice that is just go 1 E and 2 E and just to get used to it, maybe a little bit quicker than that. 1 E and 2, 3 E and 4 E and just to get a little bit more comfortable with it. Then we're going to put it in context with the groove. So back to basics, take it nice and slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1. You can count 16th notes all the way through if you really want to, but you might get a bit tired, a bit confused, so just count 4 E and So if we go from 4, we get 4 E and And it might be good to get beat 1 as well because we've got a bass drum straight away after that. So 4 E and 1. So we've got a bass drum without anything, and then a bass drum with the hi-hat on 1. Same thing again. 4 E and 1. A little bit quicker. 4 E and 1. 4 E and 1. And take it in a loop, much like that, and gradually bring up the speed. Try and get a feel for it. Make it groove. When you've got exercises this small, you want to play them in a short bit, give yourself some space afterwards, and make it into some sort of loop that you can groove with. It makes it flow a little bit better, and it just makes it sound a little bit better when you put it back into context with the groove. So let's do that nice and slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and 1. Get that down. There is another layer to this. We're going to put something else in this intermediate groove. We're going to put a hi-hat pattern in here now because it just adds an extra layer. What is this hi-hat pattern? We're still sticking to 8th notes, but we're going to put a rock hi-hat pattern in. Some people call it rock hi-hat pattern. I call it a rock hi-hat pattern. I don't know what other people call it, but that's just what it is to me. And what it is playing the downbeat, the numbers, with the shoulder of the stick on the edge, and then on the way back up, lift from the wrist, and the and we sneak in on the tip of the stick on top of the hi-hat. So you get 1 and 2, lift, 3 and 4 and. Can be a little bit tricky to get a feel for it. It will potentially look like that at the beginning, and you don't really want that. Don't get the elbow involved. Doesn't need to be there. It's all coming from the wrist. 2, 3, 4. Now you may want to take a step back here and take out the bass drum on the or 4 if you like, just to get a feel for things, because now we've got to think about where the bass drum is falling in context with this hi-hat pattern. Just remember, the edge is with the numbers, the tip of the stick on top is with the ands. So now the first bass drum will fall with the edge. 1 and 2, top, 3, top, 4, and. Get that down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm going way quicker than you should. Just FYI. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and edge, top, top, just like that. Now, adding in the extra bass drum, take it very, very slow. Remember, there is no hi-hat with that extra bass drum on the and the bass drum after that, that's on 1, will fall with the edge. Again, you can take this back to just doing beat 4. So we get 4, E, top, and bass drum, edge. So 4, E, and like that. Take your time with it. Can take a while to develop, but it's definitely worth it. So one more time, the intermediate version of this groove. 3, 4. Now, the fun bit, the advanced version of this groove. It involves one of my favorite hi-hat patterns of all time. So here it is. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, so groovy. And yet, once you've got it down, kind of simple. The hi-hat pattern is basically the same as the previous one. Rock pattern, 2 and 3 and 4 and, but when we go for this hit on top, we're going to go for a double. If your doubles aren't quite up to snuff, I do suggest you develop them a little more, but little Cliff Notes version, we want to just make sure that we engage the fingers to get the second note. Essentially, again, Cliff Notes version of doubles, you want the first note to have your hand open up like that, because when we go for the second note, it's the closing of the fingers that gets the second note. Like that. I'll do it over here on the high tom as well. So open, closed. Notice how we go down for the first hit, wrist stays frozen, arm kind of stays frozen, but it's the stick that moves. And then it's the fingers that get the second note. Can take a little while, can be a bit advanced, won't go into it now, but that is what's going on here on top of the hi-hat. So you get edge, and then we come up with the wrist, tap, tap. Bounce, 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 bounce. And the count is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I actually found this easy going a bit quicker to begin with. Don't ask me why, it just did. So you might have the same thing. I also suggest, unlike in this groove, where it is the whole way through over and over again, try just adding it at the end of your grooves. Just as a little lick to get into it, and then start to try and string them all together. Anyway, sidetracked. So we're going to put this back into context with the rest of the groove. This is quite tricky because where we have bass drums falling on the ands and the all of that's going to be falling when you're doing your funky doubles up here. So it might feel like you have less control, but we'll get into it and see how we do. So first bass drum should feel pretty confident because it's coming down with the edge. 1 and again 2, down with the edge, 2 and, so we've got the and of 2 now. So that will fall with that first beat of that double and. If you want to just play 2 and, get that confident, 2 and, get that down. Let's get up to beat 3. So we get 1 and 2 and, beat 3 is basically the same as beat 2, minus the snare drum. 3 and, then we're back to 4, 4 and. Again, worry about that extra bass drum on the afterwards. Get your 8th notes down first. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This might also be trickier at slower tempos because getting those doubles requires a lot of space. So bear that in mind. I'm not saying go super quick, just find a happy medium. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That by itself sounds really cool. 1. But the extra summit comes with the bass drum on the and this one is the tricky one because it falls with the second note of the double in the right hand. So 4 and It's going to require a little bit of extra control, and it is worth putting on a 16th note metronome with this. 1 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I just find that 16th note metronomes help just lock everything in together with these kind of grooves, especially with patterns like this. Anyway, let's stick it all together in context. So 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and. So just make sure those two bass drums, 4 and 1. 4 and 1. There's two bass drums after each other. So there's lots of little bits where you can get stuck in there. So break everything down to the beat that is involved with the tricky bit and then bring it all back together. So there you have it. How to play the same groove in 3 different ways at 3 different difficulties. Hopefully that enlightens you into different ways that you can develop your own grooves. So just a big thank you to Drummerson for using this amazing space. Look how many cool drum kits there are. Look at it, take it in, take it in. And what I would like to take in is your subscription to this channel. That would be fantastic too, because if you want us to keep making really cool content, as you can tell it's getting cooler, then feel free to subscribe and like and do all that good stuff. And get better at playing drums. That's the key, after all. So, have a great day. Enjoy playing. Big love. Mwah.